Let me try to see if I can get people who are ready to watch the other live stream on this live stream. Oh, this has been just a barrel of laughs, I tell you what. I am working on it. Hold on a second. Because I believe I'm going to show up as live in the system. I believe this is just going out. But I have no way of telling anyone that's on my other live stream to come here. Because that's very fun. So in the meantime, you can hear me babble a little bit while I pull this together. Oh, the technical issues of the first stream. That is certainly fun. Okay, there we go. Now I can share it with everyone who's waiting patiently in the other live stream. Please go here. Oh, this is fun. One for the memory books. Well, I guess if you're going to fail on your first one. So silly. Okay, and in the meantime, I'll bring up my own video so that I can watch myself as we do this podcast. There we go. Yay! All right, we did it. Good times. That's very funny. Okay, all right, at least we're up and running at this point. All right, let me see how the camera looks and everything as we get going. Okay, this doesn't look terrible. All right. Without further ado, let's get started on the original game plan. Hi, this is Joe, and welcome to Beards, Blades, and Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing why to shave with a straight razor. I'm going to mention the bit I was going to say before once people can actually join the chat and join everything. Yes, Caden, you are definitely in the right place. Thank you. I have no idea what happened. I have legitimately no idea. Obviously you saw this, so I definitely appreciate that. And I was totally scheduled to go, and then when I went to click to actually jump into to start the live stream, for whatever bizarre reason, it just would not let me join my own live stream. I could comment on it. You saw it. and it looked good. And it was all set. And I was like, oh, I'm getting ready. I'm just kind of sitting here. And then I'm just waiting. And then I'm going back to the screen on YouTube. Long story short, I just could not get it figured out. So I'll have to fix that for next week. I'll definitely do some demos on private schedules so that I'll be able to actually know for sure that it's going to work. So not this kerfuffle next week, and do appreciate you switching over and anyone else watching for switching over in the meantime. Very much appreciated. With all that being said, I'll do the welcome again. Hi, this is Joe, and welcome to Beards, Blades, and Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing why shave with a straight razor. I've got some notes here. Typically I do my YouTube videos not on notes. It's kind of all just off the top of my head. But the intention with this podcast is to be a little more longer form. And so I have some notes gathered to kind of keep me on track as I go. But hopefully it goes a little bit smoother than it has so far. This is episode 1, so definitely thanks for joining in the live. And for those of you watching in the recording, feel free to drop questions, comments, anything you're thinking of. And for those of you in the chat, definitely feel free to drop questions, comments, those kinds of things. I know, Caden, you had specifically asked to see my neckline, and I don't want to forget to do that. So we'll do a quick look at the neckline here. So there you go. As best as you can see it. So you can kind of see my beard does not grow super far down on my neckline. And it's actually why, if you look very, very closely, and depending on how I style it, it actually will do a little split in the middle, which is very common for necklines that don't go really far down. Eventually everybody gets them. If you look at like a Dr. Nick's, or Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick's is the company, but Dr. Nick himself has a super long beard, like down to his waist almost, and you can see the split that he has. And I mean, it's a fantastic beard, but everybody gets it eventually. So I'm already starting to get one just because my neckline doesn't drop that low. Other stuff to mention is what do I have in my hair and what do I have in beard today. So I'm still using Lucky Tiger Hair Tonic. This is the second day of use. If you saw my review of that product today, I absolutely hate it. My hair looks all clumpy. I'll give you a quick view here. Yeah, my hair's looking all clumpy and terrible, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I figured I used it yesterday, I used it today. I did some reviews on it. I wanted to keep it going just to give it more and more of a chance that it's totally not living up to. So that's what I have in hair, and in beard. I have my favorite beard oil, Mountaineer Beard Oil. I definitely have a review of that on my channel if you want to go check it out in detail. I'll leave a link in the description to both the Lucky Tiger Hair Tonic review as well as the Mountaineer Beard Oil review. And so that's kind of what I'm rocking today. So to continue on, as you guys take a look, feel free to drop in. I'd mentioned already in the recording to drop in any comments or questions you have, and I'll definitely respond to them. And in real time, as best as I see them, I have kind of split between my notes as well as the chat is up to my right. So if anyone has questions, comments, anything you want to drop, I'll definitely, as far as I see them, I'll respond in real time as best as I can. So into the topic for today, the why shave with a straight razor. I think I would split this really into two sides. One being more the practical and one being kind of what I would call meta. Maybe isn't the best phrasing. Maybe there's a better term for it. And if you know, drop in the chat. But I would call it more practical and more meta. So let's start with the practical side of why shave with a straight razor. I think the biggest thing I think of when I think of a straight razor and why I more or less permanently switched to one, it's been months and months and months since I've touched a safety razor. Why I permanently switched to one with a beard is that it's the perfect tool to line up your cheeks. So I've had, and I'll show you the technicals of this. So I have props today. So this is Sterling Soap Company's hyper aggressive stainless steel razor. It's excellent, excellent, excellent safety razor. This is the closest shave you will get, period. It is hyper aggressive though, and so it actually really can rough up your skin. The toughest part of my skin is my cheeks, and the hyper aggressive safety razor has definitely irritated / cut it a few times. You can see the blade gap there. It's just massive. If you know anything about safety razors or if you have any questions about it, I'll make a video about safety razors at some point. But I think that the long and the short of it is typically the bigger the blade gap and the more the blade exposure is on a safety razor, the more aggressive it is. So this one's super aggressive. The problem you run into when trying to line up your cheeks with a safety razor is, so just think, we'll do a little demo here. So I'm sitting like this and I'm trying to get my line perfect. What's the problem you see? You can't see the skin. So you have no idea where exactly the line is you want to cut. And what kept happening to me over and over and over and over again was I would just go a little low, a little low, a little low. And then, in any one shave session, that wasn't that big of a deal. But after weeks and weeks and weeks of that, eventually the line of my beard would go lower and lower. And the only reason I trim any line at all is because it grows too thin up here. It does grow, but it's so thin that I just don't think it's the best look. Like, why not shave it off and just have really nice lines? And it just gets lower and lower until the line was actually down here or so. It's an inch lower, which on your face is huge. So it's a whole inch lower than you want it to be. Or more. And so what I ended up having to do is not shave for a couple months so that I can let it regrow back and then recut that line again. And so I kept having this issue and kept having this issue. And it was the case with your more traditional double-edged safety razor, as well as this is a single-edged safety razor. This is the Gem Micromatic, which looks pretty darn cool. This one's super nice as well. It's a different kind of blade than a double-edged blade. It's a single-edged blade. This shaves excellent as well. This is actually the exact, other than being polished and cleaned up, this is actually, the Gem Micromatic is from the 1930s, and this is the actual 1930s safety razor, so it's pretty cool. But same issue. Take a look. So I'm trying to cut this line. I just can't see it. I just can't see what the line is. The last one that I have on here is I have the Schick adjustable safety razor. And this is another third type. It's another single edge safety razor, but this is even a third type of blade. And guess what? Look at this. If I'm trying to cut the line, I just can't see the line. So no matter which type of safety razor I use, I was not getting any kind of, I just couldn't see, and I kept getting lower and lower and lower until the point where I'd have to let it regrow back. So if you think of alternatives to the safety razor, because I've been a safety razor shaver on and off for the last 6 years, and it was definitely a situation where I was enjoying it, but I just couldn't get it over the lines. So other alternatives with that, you could obviously, a lot of people use a traditional cartridge razor. That's going to be even worse because think about it. I mean, if you talk about can't see, you have 3 blades or more you're working with and you're trying to cut an even line. It's just impossible to see. Well, and some of them have a single blade for like a lineup thing on the back. But once again, that's really hard to see. So, the cartridge razor doesn't work. One potential alternative, which I have not tried yet, is a Shavette. I do want to try a Shavette, and at some point I will. So I'm excited for that, and that's kind of on my radar to give one of those a try. For those of you who aren't familiar with what a Shavette is it's what your barber would use to line up anything you have, whether beard or neck or anything. It's it looks like a straight razor, except it has a replaceable blade. So your barber uses it because they don't want to go through the hassle of cleaning a straight razor and stropping a straight razor. That's the that's the quick and dirty answer. There are barber shops around the world that do that, but your barbershop doesn't. And I don't even know what your barbershop is, but I already know it doesn't. So you end up coming up with the solution, which is the straight razor, and this is the beloved Dovo Fakarbite. That I've already reviewed and loved and think it's the best. And you can quickly see that if I were, if you've seen my review video, I'll definitely drop it below. But look at that. I could just perfectly get the line exactly where I want it. And when I line up my beard, I'm sure if you've seen any of my videos, when I line up my beard, I get down to the individual hairs. So I'll literally look super, super close and it'll be 2 or 3 hairs out of place. And I get them. I don't get any additional ones as long as I'm careful, and I end up getting the perfect straight razor shave. It's just fantastic. So I think there's really, other than the potential of a Shavette, which, like I said, on my radar, I think it's the way to go if you're, I think they call it a beardsman. If you're a beardsman and you want to line up your beard, it's definitely something to look at. So, beyond lining up your beard, I think the other things. Hey, how you doing, Joshua? Thanks for hopping in. Appreciate you guys coming in. Oh, and then I see also, Not Your Mom said, I once mistook my wife's nail polish remover for one of my beard oils and you survived. I am shocked you survived. That sounds extremely rough on your beard. You'll have to, if you feel comfortable, you definitely can drop more details as to what happened after that once you put that in there. That's pretty wild. And then I saw, Caden, that you have several safety razors and the only straight razor you have is a gold dollar and you're gifted. Oh, let me know if you've actually tried it before and what your thoughts are on the gold dollar. I've never used one. That's a classic though. There are a lot of people, that's their first, and a lot of people say it's totally solid. So I don't think, there's nothing knocking the gold dollar one. So let us know your thoughts on it if you have any. So moving on from that, I think to come up with some of the objections you often hear when dealing with a straight razor, one of them is stropping. People are nervous about stropping their razor. It's really not that difficult. I tend to have shaky hands. If you've watched any of my videos, you can actually see my hands do a little bit of a shake. So it's not like I have the steadiest hand in the world. When you're stropping a safety or a straight razor, you're actually going not with the blades. You're not not in the cutting motion. You're actually letting it go and going on the back side of the blade. So it's not like you're pushing it against something. It's very comfortable and very smooth, and you can go nice and slow and nice and easy. And what you do with that too is you make sure when you're learning how to strop, your first safety or straight razor, like Caden was saying before, is typically should be a cheaper one, a gold dollar, some of this $50, something you can mess up if you really need to. And do the same thing with your strop. Like don't spend $1 million on a strop. Get something relatively inexpensive and get yourself used to the technique. Take your time, relax. This is supposed to be enjoyable. Nobody has to straight razor shave. So if you're not having fun doing it, don't do it. Simple as that. So enjoy it, enjoy the time, enjoy the time and care it takes to do it. So beyond stropping, and I'll definitely record a stropping video at some point soon. Um, and then, oh, my sister's saying hi in the chat. Hi, Erica. Nice to see you. As well as, oh, Caden, you were saying you like the gold dollar razor. You just don't do it. It's a little dull. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you like it a lot. I hope this video encourages you to get back into it, or any of the other videos I've done. It's definitely enjoyable, and especially if you're looking to line up your beard, Caden, as you grow it out, it's definitely something to think about. Oh, and then Joshua, you shave your head with a straight. Oh man, you're bringing me back. So, a little bit of a sidetrack here. I used to have a completely shaved head. Bet you didn't know that one. So, I used to live up north, and the cold weather, or something, someone told me lack of vitamin D from the sun, which that sounds about the best explanation I've ever heard. I had pretty thinning hair. And so I used to shave my head completely, typically with a safety razor. But yeah, Joshua, I really tried with a straight. I really, really tried. I could never fully do it. I couldn't. I really tried, and I would every day. I would at least do. I could typically do my sides decently well, side of the head, and I could typically do the top decently. Where I would always get stuck is in the curvature of the back of the head. That would totally mess me up when I would be going to try to get every little nook and cranny back there. I would fail, and I would typically use my safety razor to clean up whatever my straight was. But I used to do that, and then when I moved to South Florida, my hair started growing back thicker. Well, just vitamin D, why not? And when it started growing back thicker, I just grew it out and got into pomades from there. So that's why I still do. That's the hair portion of beards, blades, and hair. So definitely good comments there. Definitely add into the conversation. I like it. Other stuff we have is, or other stuff I wanted to mention in terms of people's typical objections is the sharpening. So Caden had a straight razor that ended up going dull eventually, which will happen. But it's actually not. It's not like you have to sharpen all the time. So here's what I will say. If you were using one straight razor every single day for 3 to 4 months, you would need to sharpen it. Keep in mind that if you're watching this channel, you're probably just lining up your beard. Maybe you're doing your head like Joshua, so that would fall in the 3 or 4 month category. But if you're just lining up your beard, you really don't. You're just not covering that much real estate. You don't have to sharpen that much. So it's definitely something to keep in mind that, like, for those of you who are just lining up hair, it's not going to come up that often. For context, now, to be fair, I was gifted a lot of straight razors, and I do have a pretty big collection at this point. But with that being said, I've never had to sharpen a straight razor yet. It hasn't come up, so I have enough. So like it takes a while, and I've been in and out of straight razor shaving for the last 6 years. So it comes up, and depending on where you go, I would expect to pay $25 to $40 depending on who's doing the sharpening, or you can buy the stones and start doing the work yourself. Once again, that's something I haven't gotten to yet personally, either on the paying someone side or on the personal sharpening side, but it's something to keep in mind. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Joshua, you're cutting yourself up before. Funnily enough, with the straight razor on the head, I was not cutting myself up. I just couldn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, I would just be like, I can't quite get the hair. Like, I'm not slicing up my head, but I just can't get it. So, I kept going until I stopped shaving my head. Now I don't do it anymore, so it just doesn't come up. So beyond that, we kind of talked about the practical side of why shave with a straight razor. On the what I would call the meta side, one of the reasons that I think you should shave with a straight razor is it's really cool. So obviously that's a bit subjective, but it's pretty neat when you pull out your straight razor and even if nobody sees, you're by yourself. There's nothing cooler than taking a piece of hardened steel and kind of, run it across your face, or doing the strop, and you hear that really cool, like, kind of sound. It's definitely a good feeling, and definitely just makes you feel like a total badass. So I would definitely put it in that category. Other reasons I would say, on more like the meta side, is it's really not something that's super, super pricey. It's a little bit of an investment up front, but there's tons and tons and tons and tons of old straight razors out there in the world that you can get for pretty cheap and either fix up yourself or send to a company that will fix it up for you. And you'll walk out the door with a really good product for not that much. Now, not that much is a little bit subjective, but I think you can reasonably get a pretty dang good straight razor for, somewhere between 50 and $100. And considering this thing will last your life, your kid's life, and your grandkids' life, whether that's cheap or expensive is really something that's up to you. But I think, especially given the context of some of these straights are really old, which I think is something super cool. If you've seen my Dovo Fockerbite review, the Fockerbite was made in the 1960s, and actually between 67 and 71, it's actually on the blade, between 1967 and 1971. And I just think that's cool. Like, even, that's for me, that's ancient history, right? 50 plus years ago is pretty freaking cool. And that's nothing in the straight razor world. So I have straight razors, and it's not like I'm some master collector. This is just stuff I picked up over time. I have this Joseph and Sons. Oh, Joseph Rogers and Sons straight razor. It's called the Master Razor number 1. Let me try to hold it correctly, jeez. And this thing is from the 1880s. And this is when the technique of a hollow ground was new. So you can see how the narrowness of the blade, how it gets down really, really narrow, not just at the bottom, but it thins out pretty quickly. That's called a hollow ground. And that was relatively new technology in the 1880s. And beyond that, typically your wedge straight razors, which to contrast with a hollow ground, you'll see this is a Wade and Butcher. And for this one, you can kind of see, yes, it still comes to a point, but it doesn't do it until kind of the end of the blade. This is another one where, this is probably from the 1860s, because it's before the technology of the hollow ground was invented. Wow. And I can speak complimentary of both. I think both, although the hollow ground was considered a newer, obviously a newer invention, a newer style, I definitely would consider it to be just something different. Both are good. The wedge style grind versus the hollow ground, I think both are very good, and there's nothing to cry about on either front. Yeah. Yeah. So you were just saying, Caden, you can get honed and sharpened, but you don't want to pay. You get home and try it again. Yeah, you could definitely do that. And then you can also, if you want to put a little bit of an investment in getting the stones and spending the time to learn how to sharpen it, I think that's worthwhile. That's a worthwhile endeavor too, because that can be fun in its own right. It's just something, like I said, I've had enough at this point. This is the first straight razor I ever bought. I keep blanking on the name. Joseph Rogers and Sons. There we go. I keep mixing it because I keep thinking Sheffield. It's from Sheffield and says so on the blade, but Joseph Rogers and Sons. This one is the first straight razor I ever bought, and it actually still doesn't need a sharpen. So, like I said, just doing your cheeks helps. And so I think that's definitely, there's definitely reasons to straight razor shave, reasons to not. Obviously, I kind of countered some of the cons here, and the other being, you do have to be very careful when you're using it. It's just a piece of steel that you're rubbing right against your skin. So, it's a skill to build. It's very, definitely not easy. But to me, that kind of ties into a pro. What I would say is, and this is a bit personality based, right? I think if you're the kind of person that finds accomplishing or doing something that's difficult very gratifying, then straight razor shaving's for you. If you're the kind of person who just sits there and just says, what's the easiest way to do whatever, or like, I'm not going to fiddle with that because it's too hard. So, it depends in sport or in life. So like, there's people, I'm not a golfer, but there are lots of people who would say, hey, I like golf because it's really hard, but when I nail it, when I have a really good day and I do really well, that's a really good feeling. So I say the same thing with a straight razor. If you can do something that's very difficult very well, to me, that's a great feeling. So I think that's definitely falls into like the meta category and something to think of. So that's all I really have for today. Wanted to make sure I ran through the topic and everything. I really appreciate everybody coming over and switching streams. I will have that fixed for next week, I promise. And we're going to do this every Friday night. So every Friday at 9 o'clock I think that's the easiest time. It might not be the easiest time or the most convenient time for everybody, but that's a time I know I can make every single week without trouble. So I didn't want to have to skip weeks or anything like that. And then you're welcome to join in the chat and drop in questions or comments, or just hop in later and do the same in, as far as the comments and everything. Hey, True North, thanks for hopping in, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. You're gonna have to watch the replay. We're about wrapping up here, but I definitely appreciate you coming on and everybody for coming on, including I think my wife is watching. Hi, babe, I love you. My sister was watching, and then I think my own mom is watching as well. So really, really appreciate it. We'll definitely get these going more as we go, and I hope we get the party vibes going and more people joining. And hey, as I've always said, I might not have said to my audience necessarily, but I've been saying this in my personal life, is that I'm surprised anybody's showing up. So really appreciate that you're all here and enjoying the content. It feels great. I really appreciative of that. So with that said, this has been Joe from Beards, Blades, and Hair, and until next time, this has been the Beards, Blades, and Hair, or no, it's Beards, Blades, and Podcast. And I'm going to have to awkwardly reach up and close this because I don't know another way to end the stream. I need to get better at this. Uh, Sorry, guys. Oh, this is hilarious. This will all be fixed, I hope, at some point. Oh, boy. How do I end this? Oh, this is great. How do I stop this?